everybody, this is Blake here. I am going to be reviewing Taken 2. Now, I remember being a little bit disappointed with the first Taken. When I saw that teaser trailer way back when, where he's saying on the phone what he's going to do to these guys if they take his daughter, I mean, that gave me chills. That made the movie seem spectacular. So I had really high expectations for it. But then after I watched it, I just felt really underwhelmed. I mean, it was a decent movie. It wasn't a bad film at all, but nothing about it really stood out to me. And it occurred to me as I was writing the review that I had expected a totally different kind of film. I think I wanted a more intricate story, but instead it was just Liam Neeson goes from scene to scene beating people up. Now, in retrospect, that sounds awesome, but I think where I started to warm up to the film is I just started looking at it the same way I look at some of Steven Seagal's earlier films. You know, the good ones, like Above the Law, Marked for Death, Out for Justice, where you're not really supposed to pay attention to the story or even the direction. It's a vehicle designed just to showcase how, you know, awesome Steven Seagal was for those movies, and Taken was pretty much the same thing, except it was designed just to show how awesome Liam Neeson was. So once I realized that, I started enjoying it a lot more because Liam Neeson really is awesome. He was great in that kind of role. What's so interesting about him is he doesn't look like your traditional action star. He's not like Schwarzenegger or Stallone, or, you know, those guys are buff guys who you wouldn't want to mess with. But Liam Neeson, just all about attitude, and he makes it work. He was great in that movie, and since he was so great, that really helped the rest of the film seem better than it probably was, because nothing else about it really stood out. Like the action, just some shootout scenes and a car chase scene, but nothing spectacular. So yeah, I had a change of heart, and I now consider myself a fan of the first Taken, even if I don't think it's a great movie. Now, I actually wasn't aware that they were even making a Taken 2 until I saw the teaser, or the first trailer, which was attached to The Bourne Legacy. Now, I was at the time really confused, just because I usually hear about these kinds of things beforehand, but not there. And as I was watching the trailer, I kind of felt two things. One, the second half of the trailer was probably trying to give the same vibe that Drive had. You know, the trailer where, you know, it starts playing like real artsy music, and that kind of cracked me up. But I also felt that there were way too many verbal allusions to the first film, so I was really concerned that this would just be a rehash. And but as it came closer to its actual release date, I started warming up to it, just because, you know, maybe this is the movie that I initially expected Taken to be, where it would have a much more, you know, developed and intricate story, where it would focus more on how exactly he finds these guys, and it would be really intelligent, sort of like the Mission Impossible movies, at least the better ones. And unfortunately, we did not get that movie. Taken 2 isn't bad, it's just a misfire. I felt that it tried to pretty much do the same thing that the first film did, but then almost it seemed like it lost focus of what made the first film so good. The first thing we notice is the first act is really boring. It's just focusing on Liam Neeson's character, him bonding with his daughter, and sort of reconciling with his ex-wife who's getting a divorce. And there's just something it's just way too much of a soap opera. Nothing really clicks. Even though the acting is good, it just doesn't feel natural. It's like they kind of want the daughter to be rebellious in a way, but then they don't go far enough with that, just because I presumed the writers figured that it would make her too unlikable, since he's pretty much saved her ass in the first film. But it's like, why even toy with that at all? And then it's weird seeing the wife act so nice to him, because she was such a bitch in the first movie. But everything seems too syrupy. It's very slow and boring. I was not interested at all. I was pretty much hoping that somebody would get abducted soon. So then they all go to Istanbul, and eventually him and his wife get abducted, but he is so smart and the villains are so stupid that he contacts the daughter, and he's pretty much telling her what to do. And yeah, he does break out and then join her pretty quickly, so it's not like she's the new main character or anything. But I think one of my main problems is, you know, as I said, it wants to be the same thing that the first film is, but then it screws that up. So like, for example, when he's captured and he's ordering the daughter to do all this stuff, that's all fine and dandy, but because it's not Liam Neeson doing the action, he's just sitting there pretty much. It's just not as interesting, you know. The daughter does good. I have nothing there is no problem with Maggie Grace, I think that's her name, her performance, but she's not Liam Neeson, so that kind of slowed down the pacing in itself. And once he does join up with her, it just seemed like it was so stupid. Like, how is she out driving these cops in their own home turf? Now, I don't know if you've ever driven in a foreign country, or even a different state, I guess, but it's really awkward. You know, especially in this kind of country where, you know, the streets are constantly flooded with people and stuff like that, but she's somehow out driving cops. And it just, all it's doing is drawing attention to those kinds of problems. And so that was really awkward. I kept trying to think, was the first film this dumb? I don't really remember much of the script at all. So, but at the same time, even if it was contrived or absurd, I could buy it just because Liam Neeson's character was supposed to be that badass who could do the impossible. But his daughter isn't supposed to be like that, so it was very hard to swallow. And then what's even weirder with the structure is, you know, at first the villains are really good. They're really intelligent, cold, ruthless. You love to hate them. They were definitely a step up over the first film's villains, but it's like, as time goes on, they get more and more idiotic. So once they catch him, that was all well and good, but then they just leave him alone in a cell where he's barely bound. You'd think that somebody would be in there watching him, but no. Or at least they could have done what they did with the wife, where they tie her up in a real awkward position so she couldn't do anything. But no, to drive the plot, they have to, you know, give him a way out. So that was really stupid. That's the type of stupidity in films that I really don't like. And it seems like after during the second half, where the daughter sort of fades out once more, once he goes back and starts, you know, fighting everybody head on, it's just too easy for him. They stop being a threat altogether. It becomes more and more about Liam Neeson kicking ass once again. But you can't do that twice. I think it's actually really lazy. I was hoping that there would be a villain who was Liam Neeson's match, both in intelligence or, you know, skill, whatever. But it seemed like it was the opposite of the first film, where it starts off really easy for Liam Neeson, but then it gets more difficult as time goes on, as he crawls up the food chain, more or less. The villains become progressively more dangerous. Well, this is the opposite. They start off really dangerous, then they get suckier. So there was a lot of problems with the script, and it just, all in all, it just seemed let me rephrase that whole sentence. The pacing is just a lot worse. It's just not as interesting as it used to be. So it's trying to insert like all these dramatic sequences, maybe to expand on the structure a little bit, but it just bloats it, and it just keeps everything sort of uninteresting. But on the other hand, I will say the action is much better this time around. It's nothing spectacular, but the gunfights, the car chases, and even the hand-to-hand fights, they're much cooler this time around. The editing is much less obstructive. You know, in the first film, I thought it was just way too tightly edited. The camera work is much less shaky, and it was just all around better staged. There was a lot of really good stunts. And there was actually a really cool fight scene at the end, too. I was surprised at how well that was done, considering it's Liam Neeson, who's not a real-life martial artist, as far as I know. But that was a stunningly well-put-together fight scene. But it just, I don't know, it just, as a whole, it wasn't very interesting. I thought it was kind of dull. It wasn't horrible or anything. Liam Neeson is still awesome. The acting is good all around. But it just didn't keep my attention consistently. Now, I'd say it's mediocre, but at least it's mediocre in a good way. It's not like The Cold Light of Day, which is so insanely mediocre that I start to get angry. This one is just, I was very lukewarm about it. I wasn't excited, but at the same time, I wasn't angry either. So would I recommend it? You know, you're probably going to see it anyway if you loved the first film. So I'd say go ahead. It's not that terrible to dissuade you. Just pay as little as possible. And if you don't care, at best, wait till DVD or Blu-ray. And if you didn't like the first film, then don't bother with this one. So that's all I have to say. Even though I haven't actually done my written review yet, by the time you see this, it should be up. So the link is in my description. Follow me on Twitter. Comment, subscribe, whatever. Hopefully my third part of my To Boldly Flee review will be out in the next few days. I'll see you guys later.